Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture number 55 of this NPTEL lecture series on charging infrastructure, and today we will study on the topic related to DC charging system, particularly corresponding to the DC001 standard, which is also called as a Bharat Electric Vehicle Charging Standard DC001. So till now we have discussed about the CCS2 DC charging systems, where we have understood different charging states A, B, C, D, E, F as well. We have understood what is the proximity pilot does. So as we have understood, proximity pilot is the one which once detected appropriately will immobilize the vehicle, because once the charger plug gets connected to the vehicle should not move ahead. So that is a work which primarily been done by the proximity pilot pin in the CCS2 charger. Then we have what is the meaning of control pilot, what is the how the control pilot voltage level and the frequency and duty ratio indicates some critical charging parameters in case of AC charging. And in case of DC charging, we have understood that duty ratio is kept between 3 to 7%. However, the voltage level in the positive side indicates different charging states, whether whether the EV and EVSEs are ready or not. Then we have seen a different charging sequence related to CCS2 charging systems. One by one how that thing happens. Then we have understood things related to PLC, which is power line communication. We have understood that how power line communication takes place in CCS2 DC charging system. The power line communication happens over the CP and PE line. Then after that we have seen how the PLC modem get initialized, they got logically connected, and once they got logically connected, the high level communication will be taken place over the CCS2 charging systems. And we have seen in the low level communication, which is particularly for AC type 2 charger, that low level communication which is PWM based communication, which was there just to indicate the status of EV and EVSE. However, in high level communication, a lot of parameters are exchanged during the charging system, and primarily because the DC chargers have the power conversion unit outside the vehicle. So a lot of information related to batteries, related to charging, or related to the charging states have to be shared with the charger unit, so that accordingly the electric vehicle supply equipment will respond to it and will put the output at its power pins, or you can say DC plus and DC minus pin, as per the requirement of the BMS of a vehicle. So that is how the CCS2 DC charging system takes place. Now let us move ahead and see another charging system, which is BEVC DC001. Now in this thing we have already seen that it has the input which is nothing but 3-phase AC, which is 415 volt line to line, and it has the 5 wire connection, 3 phase wires and 1 neutral wire and 1 earth wire which has been there. However, it has the output which supports a maximum of 10 kilowatt for 48 volt system, so which corresponds to roughly 200 ampere, and it will be also be supported for 72 volt up to the 15 kilowatt, because it will again makes the maximum current going up to 200 ampere. So for the 48 volt system it supports up to 10 kilowatt, because maximum current can support is nearly 200 ampere. So for 200 ampere it can support maximum up to 10 kilowatt. If the battery voltage is 72 volt, it is roughly supporting the 200 ampere. And this particular standard has been introduced by the Department of Heavy Industry, Government of India in 2017, and it is one of the initial standard which has been adopted in India. However, this particular charging standard still exists in India, and still we have charging stations which have these EVSEs which have BEVC DC001 EVSEs which are been present, and it primarily supports the low voltage powertrain. That means for the 3-wheelers, for the early stage 4-wheelers, for 2-wheeler system, it can support the fast charging of the EVs with the low voltage powertrain. Now in this, the communication is actually been derived from 6185-24B, which is also been included in AIS 138 part 2 and mostly in annexure G. It is been present, it has been included all the communication related aspects like different CAN databases, different messages are been included in AIS 138 part 2 annexure G, and it is been derived from GBT 27930, mostly the application layer part, how the messages can be represented, what all messages which are been there, the CAN database. Again, there will be several messages which have also been included, which is also regional specific, especially for India, and it actually uses a dedicated CAN channel to do the communication. So since in this case, as it is a DC charging system, we have the power conversion unit placed in the EVSE, so continuous information has to be shared between EV and EVSE, and in this case it is been done using the CAN communication, and it uses the GBT 202.34.3 connector with the standard 5-meter cable. And you can say in this charger plug what we have is, we have the DC plus line, DC minus line. Obviously this DC plus and DC minus line are the pins through which the actual power is being transferred, so that's why they are quite thicker pins. We have the charging confirmation pin number 1, we have charging confirmation pin number 2 to confirm the plugging of the charger plug into the EV, and then the actual CAN communication is taking place using the S plus and S minus line. So S plus corresponds to the CAN high line and S minus corresponds to the CAN low line, and it is this S plus and S minus pins through which the actual CAN communication will be taken place. Actually the data is being shared between the EV and EVSE. And it also has the auxiliary plus and auxiliary minus pins, basically to power up the auxiliary system for charging, primarily the controllers and sensor related aspects, and it also has the protective earth. So as per the standard document which is being shared by the Ministry of Heavy Industries, Government of India, what we see is that what they mentioned, that the EVSE which has been there has actually 2 number of outputs, and obviously since we have the DC EVSE, we are actually doing mode 4 kind of charging. We have already understood what is the meaning of mode 4, where we have the dedicated DC EVSE to do the DC charging of the vehicle. Now in this thing they have defined 2 types of EVSEs, where we have the first type 1. In the type 1 you can have 2 outputs, output 1 and output 2. Now the output 1, the power is limited up to 10 kilowatt for 48 or 72 volt system, and for output 2 is actually been limited to the 48 volt system with a maximum power rating of 3.3 kilowatt, and it is primarily being used for 2-wheelers having the 48 volt battery pack. Then they have defined another kind of EVSE which is type 2, where they have the output 1 which is nothing but having the 10 kilowatt for 48 volt system, and they have also given another power rating which is 15 kilowatt for 72 volt battery systems. So if the battery system has 72 volt, then they can use a maximum up to 15 kilowatt, because maximum current which can be drawn is nothing but 200 ampere. And if the battery pack is having 48 volt, then maximum power it can take is nothing but 10 kilowatt. Then the second output which is been there is nothing but is the same thing, which is at 48 volt, especially for 2-wheelers, and going maximum up to 3.3 kilowatt. So this, the 2 types of EVSEs they have defined in the standard document, and they have particularly defined that output 1 uses the charger plug which is nothing but derived from GBT 202.34.3 standard. All the information like the dimensions of the pin, the form factor of the charger plug, the proximity detection registers which are been defined must be derived from the GBT 202.34.3 standard. Then they have also defined some of the functional requirements, which says that the voltage measurements which are being done, they are being done such that the variation must be within plus minus 0.5%, and they have also defined the current measurement which is nothing but plus minus 1 ampere, especially for the current level less than equal to 50 ampere. So that they have already defined the sensors which are being used, they must have that measuring accuracies. Then they have also defined the protection against over voltage, which is told that the EVSE shall reduce the DC output current to less than 5 ampere within the 2 seconds to prevent over voltage of the battery, and if the output voltage exceeds the maximum voltage limit of the battery for 1 second. So, they have also defined the protection against over voltage, which they tell that once the output voltage exceeds the maximum voltage rating of the battery for 1 second, then they must reduce the output current value to be less than 5 ampere within the 2 seconds. If voltage exceeds the maximum limit of battery voltage. And here they have also defined that there will be dedicated communication which will be there between the EV and EVAC, which has been done using CAN communication, and all the properties related to the digital communication is incorporated in IEC 61851-24 and GBT 27930, which is also been included in AIS 138 part 2 annexure G of that. Then they have also defined that there is a communication between the EVAC and central management system, which is done using the OCPP protocol, which is open charge point protocol. Open charge point protocol. So, they have also defined that that facility must also be there with the EVAC, so that it can facilitate the metering, the logging and the maintenance functionality for the EVAC by the charging station service provider. And they have also defined the regulation method will be the combination of constant voltage and constant current control methods. They have also mentioned some of the key characteristic of power conversion unit, which is nothing but that overall efficiency must be greater than 92% at nominal power output, and at the same time they have also mentioned that the power factor which is been there, this is the efficiency, so and power factor which is be there must be greater than 0.9 during the full load case. So, these are some of the key things they have defined. Further, they have also defined the maximum current limit is nothing but 200 ampere, and we have already discussed what are the voltage levels and the power levels which can be supported by this particular charging system. Similarly, they have also defined that the tolerances for the regulation, the voltage and current regulation at the output, what they have mentioned is that the tolerances will be plus minus 2.5 ampere for the current level less than 50 ampere and plus minus 5% for the current level greater than 50 ampere. And this is the case when you are at constant current charging. Similarly, they have also defined the tolerance level when the system is in the constant voltage charging. So, constant voltage charging CV mode. In the CV mode, they have defined that the voltage tolerance must be maximum 2% for the maximum rated voltage of EVAC. So, that has to be there. So, these are some of the key information which will be useful for us while going ahead and discussing about BEVC DC001. However, one can go and see the details of that using the document which is been shared by Ministry of Heavy Industry, Government of India. In that they have defined each and everything, but here I am only including some of the key information which will help us in understanding other aspect of this charging system. Further, in this particular charging system, as we have mentioned, the digital communication happens over the control area network, and it uses the dedicated CAN bus lines, that means CAN high and CAN low lines. So, for the CAN bus lines, they have defined that it uses the shielded twisted pair wires with the termination resistance of 120 ohm. Now, that is a dedicated communication channel between the EV and EVAC we are talking about. That means between the vehicle and the charger which is being used to charge the vehicle. Similarly, the proximity detection is done via the charging confirmation pins, which actually provides a simple hardware based confirmation indicating that the physical connection is being done, and it also ensures the locking of the charger plug into the vehicle. So, this is actually been done using the simple register divisor circuit. So, once the confirmation of the charging plug is been done, the charger plug gets locked into the vehicle inlet connector, and after that the detailed communication starts. And in the detailed communication in BEVC DC001, it is been derived from GBT 27930, and which is primarily GBT 27930-2015 standard. Now, in that particular thing, it actually defines the rules for implementing the physical layer, data link layers, and specifically the application layer. And primarily the physical layer and data link layer is been derived from SAE J1939 standard, which is also been incorporated in GBT 27930, and which is been incorporated in BEVC DC001. So, here the physical layer defines the termination conditions, the voltage levels of the signals, the differential signaling, and the speed with which the signaling can be done. While the data link layer, which is been there in the SAE J1939 and which is also been incorporated in GBT 2793, defines the addressing for the communication nodes, which is nothing but the BMS of the EV and the charger controller. While it also indicates what will be the CAN data frame formats, how the CAN data frame has to be arranged, how the messages has to be arranged. Now, in this case, the application layer, which is being taken from the GBT 2793-2015, it actually defines the representation of the parameters and their parameter group numbers. So, it includes all the messages, and in the messages what all the different data units which are been there, the parameter corresponds to this, the resolution corresponds to this, and their specific parameter group number for easy identification of the messages which are being received. And they also defines the CAN data frames which are being transmitted, which is in the form of protocol data unit format, which is been derived from the GBT 27930. And using this protocol data unit format, the controllers will be able to identify the messages and then can decide whether that message belongs to them or not. And in this particular thing, the speed with which it can do communication is 250 kbps, and it actually uses CAN 2.0b protocol, which is nothing but having the 29-bit identifier. This we will study, which we will understand once we discuss the CAN communication. So, they uses CAN 2.0b based data frame, which has nothing but 29-bit identifier. So, in summary, what we can see is that here we only have 3 layers. We have the physical layer, which is been incorporated from SAE J1939 or ISO 11898, which is been included in the GBT 27930 and which is been again derived in BEVC DC001. Then we have data link layer, which is also taken from the SAE J1939, which actually defines the addresses for the communicating node and also the data frame with which the CAN messages has to be sent from one side to another side. And finally, the application layer is been derived from GBT 27930-2015, and some of the things have been added in those messages so that it can be used in particularly in Indian region. Now, up till this point we have seen that it uses the CAN communication. Now, in this communication we only have 2 participants at a time. That means we have the charger on one side and we have the BMS on the vehicle side. That means whenever the communication is taking place between EV and EVSE, it is taking place between the charger controller on one side and the BMS on the vehicle side, and they have the fixed addresses. Since only 2 communicating nodes are there, they have already defined the fixed addresses, which is 86 in decimal number and 56 in hexadecimal number for charger, and 244 in decimal number and F4 in hexadecimal number for the BMS. So, the moment the vehicle says that they are BEVC DC001 compliance, the BMS must have the address of 244, and the moment the charger says that they are BEVC DC001 compliant, then they must have the address which is nothing but 86. This is the dedicated communication channel which has been there between the charger and the EV, while on the other hand, if we see in the vehicle, we also have the other CAN communication network which has been there, and there is no direct connection to other CAN systems which is there in the vehicle, such as powertrain CAN or the CAN bus which has been there between the different controllers inside the vehicle. So, this is a dedicated communication channel which is there only between the BMS and between the charger, and using this particular CAN channel, the BMS and the charger controller communicates the information within itself. Generally the communication is done over the CAN high and CAN low line, the two CAN bus lines which are been there, using the differential signaling and with a speed of 250 kbps. And here they use the CAN 2.0b message format, that means they have the 29-bit identifier. So, since we are using the CAN communication here, so let us first deep dive and understand what is the CAN communication, how it is useful, why it is been adopted in vehicle systems, and why it is been incorporated in this particular system. Since here if we see one more thing, that there is no in between layers, here we only have just the 3 layer of the open source interconnection layer system. However, the most important thing is it is the CAN communication over which the data are being transmitted between the charger and the EV. So, let us also understand and let us also build our understanding related to CAN communication briefly. Again, we are not going too deep into the concepts of CAN communication, but some portion we will understand, and that will help us to determine how the CAN communication will be taking place in the DC001 charging system. So, in the CAN communication, the full form of the CAN communication is nothing but called as a controlled area network. Now, this control area network is basically a communication network between the devices. So, between the devices having controllers you can say, or having some controller, or you can say that let us say in your vehicle, for example in your vehicle you have several systems, several intelligent systems are there in your vehicle. You have infotainment system, you have anti-braking systems, you have electronic control unit, you have several sensor systems you have in a vehicle, you have HVAC system, then you have powertrain system. So, all those systems will have the individual controllers, and those controllers will be actually communicating with each other via a network which is nothing but CAN communication network. In 1991 SAE conference, the Bosch has introduced these CAN communication systems that will be taken up by all the manufacturers around the world to do the communication within the different controllers in the vehicle. That will help the different OEMs and different companies to share the information over the single communication channel, because once they follow the CAN communication protocol, those controllers can be easily interpretable from one vehicle to another vehicle, they can be connected once they have the CAN communication. Now, the CAN communication is done with the network comprises of several nodes. There are more than one nodes. There could be 10 controllers communicating with each other, there could be 100 controllers communicating with each other, and it is a message based protocol. What I mean by that message based protocol is in the message itself, in the data itself, the priority of the messages will be defined. Since the priority of the messages are defined in the data itself, so this CAN networks or CAN communication network can be easily extendable and are very flexible. One can easily add other nodes, one can easily remove the nodes in future. Just by doing the software changes, one can easily add, one can easily remove the any nodes in future. So, that is why it is a message based protocol. It is just the messages which are defining the priority, it is just the message which will define which node will be sending, which other nodes will be the receiving node. It is basically a 2-wire system defined by CAN high and CAN low channel, and it is a serial bus communication. That means the messages are sent one by one. So, if let us say one CAN message has 100 bits, so it will one by one each bit will be going, and it is just via 2-wire network which is a CAN high and CAN low. Now, originally the CAN was developed to reduce the cable wiring, so that the separate control unit inside the vehicle could communicate with only just a single pair of wires. They did not need to send several data among different controllers. Now, it is a message based protocol which also allows for several features to be added just via software alone. So, no need to change the hardware, you have to just program it in a new manner such that you can increase or you can reduce the amount of things which is being shared among different units. It is been originally been widely used in automotive industry, avionics industry, medical industries, in medical systems and escalator. Now, how it reduces the wiring? Let us see one example. Let us say you have a ECU unit, you have a propulsion unit, and you have, let us say, anti-braking system. It helps in avoiding the sliding of the vehicle whenever sudden brakes are been applied. And let us say you also have an infotainment system. So, 4 systems you have. Infotainment system means things related to entertainment as well as information comes under infotainment system. Now, in this case, what happens is that you have different controllers which is been there employing in your vehicle, and let us say you have a sensor, let us say you have a speed sensor which is been placed on the wheels or near to the wheels to understand what is the speed of the vehicle. And since all the systems needed the information related to speed, let us say if there is no CAN communication, this speed sensor has to give signal to ECU. The separate wire should run to give indication to propulsion system. The separate wire should run and indicate the speed to the anti-braking systems in order to take the required action to avoid sliding of the vehicle. Then the same thing, 2 wire will go into the infotainment system to showcase what is the vehicle current speed in the dashboard, or let us say it can be used for future purposes, storing it somewhere. From the same speed sensor, since we have 4 controllers, you are sending nearly 8 copper wires, and this ECU could be at one point in the vehicle, propulsion system will be at some other place in the vehicle, ABS will be some other place in the vehicle, infotainment system will be at near to the driver's seat. So, there are several things which are there and they are fully distributed in a vehicle, and 8 wire has to run inside the vehicle and take the information and inform all the different controllers what is the speed of the vehicle. However, in case of CAN communication, let us take we have a CAN communication. So, same units we have, let us say ECU, we have propulsion system, we have ABS, we have infotainment system. Again, they are at different places in the vehicle. However, they are now getting connected to the CAN communication, which has the CAN high line and CAN low line. So, this ECU is connected, this propulsion system is connected, this ABS is connected, this infotainment system is connected. You have one CAN high, CAN low wire which is running around the vehicle, only 2 wire system. And let us say you have a speed sensor. Through the speed sensor will give through the CAN transceiver. In the CAN transceiver, it will then connect it to the CAN bus. So, in this case, if you look around, you have only 2 wires which is running all throughout the vehicle instead of 8 wires which were running when there was no CAN channel. Here we have a CAN channel, and because of CAN channel, what happens is that whenever the speed information has to be sent, the speed controller in the speed sensor will through the CAN transceiver will put in the speed information on the CAN bus, and then all the 4 nodes which are connected onto the CAN bus will receive that particular information at one go the moment the messages are put in on the CAN bus, and that is when you can avoid having the so many copper wire running throughout the vehicle. You just require 2 copper wire which is CAN high and CAN low, which will be running in the entire vehicle and will be connected to different nodes, and that is when easily one node can be communicating to any node which can be placed at different place in the vehicle just by putting the message into the CAN channel, which will reach to the other node, and the other node will then use that data and perform certain functionality. So, that is where you have reduced from 8 wires to just 2 wire system, and it is case with just one sensor and just 4 controllers we have taken. In vehicle you have hundreds of controllers, you have hundreds of sensors to make sure the vehicle perform appropriately. So, there will be so many wires which will be running around the vehicle if you do not have used the CAN communication. However, with the CAN communication you have now just 2 copper wire which will running inside the vehicle, and all the informations can be exchanged with different controllers which are connected over the CAN bus. Now, this is where it reduces the cable wiring, it reduces the copper component onto the vehicle, and that is when the weight, the cost of the overall system get reduced. and that is why the CAN communication got adopted across all the automotive OEMs to actually communicate between different controllers. Now let us see what are the benefits, and from the benefit we will then try to see different data frames related to CAN communication. So the first benefit is the low cost. Obviously the controller unit communicate with just a single CAN interface, reducing the copper content in the vehicle. It has the centralized communication, that means from one controller you can centrally diagnose and configure all the controller unit in the vehicle. It is the robust communication system because the CAN signals are robust against the electromagnetic interferences, or you can say from the nearby circuit, and it is primarily because it uses a differential signaling and twisted pair cable. So that is why using the twisted pair cable it reduces the electromagnetic interference to the circuit, and because of the differential signal it can also avoid the electromagnetic interferences from the nearby circuit. That means it has now become electromagnetic compatible in place where you have the huge amount of electromagnetic interferences. Then comes the efficient. It is highly efficient because in the CAN messages itself the priorities are defined, and along with the data you have the message ID, and that message ID defines the priority of the message, and the top priority always gets the access to the CAN bus. That means the message which is actually having the top priority is actually owning that CAN bus to perform certain things. Then we have the error compatibility. So CAN data frame has cyclic redundancy check, which is to perform different error check onto each message frame which is being received from the source to the receiver, and an error frame is actually transmitted to indicate the occurrence of an error, and frames with error can be discarded by all the nodes. So in the CAN communication you have the CRC, which is the cyclic redundancy check code, which is being incorporated in the CAN data frame, and that will help to avoid having the error, or in case if their errors are persisting it will tell to the other nodes that error is there. Now it is very flexible. The CAN communication is very flexible because each CAN connected controller receives all the transmitted message. For example, in this CAN bus, assume in this CAN bus there are node 1, node 2, node 3 are connected. So let us say one of the node is a sender or is a transmitter. So whenever it transmit the message it goes into the CAN bus, and each node which is receiving that message from the sender, it will receive that particular message and decides its relevance. And how it decides the relevance? By comparing the message frame which is receiving, it has the message ID, by comparing the message ID in the frame using the CAN database of itself. So every node will have the CAN database, it will have CAN database, it will have CAN database, it will have CAN database, and they will compare with that CAN database and they will understand if the message is correct message they will receive it, if the message is not correct they will just ignore it. So the message will get received, they will check the message with the CAN database, if it is within their database it is okay, they will take it, the message is not within the database they will reject the message. And this will help us in easy modification or inclusion of additional nodes in future. Again the speed, it supports the data rate of 1 Mbps up to 40 meter cable and 125 kbps up to 100 meter distance between the two nodes. And again it is a multi-master configuration. So all the nodes which are connected through the CAN bus, anyone could be master, anyone could be slave, it depends upon the message which are been put on the CAN bus. The node which is actually putting the message having the highest priority will win the bus, and it will be called as a sender node, and while the other nodes will be the receiver node and they will be receiving the message which has been put by the master node. And that sender node, or you can say the master node, will keep on changing depending upon the message ID or the priority of that message which has been put on the CAN bus. So these are some of the benefits of CAN communication. We will study more things related to CAN communication like the electrical properties, the CAN data frame, and how the CAN communication can be used to do the communication between the EV and EVAC in case of DC001, which is actually following nothing but GBT 27930-2015 standard. We will see those things in the next class. Thank you very much for patiently listening to this lecture, and we will continue our discussion in the next class.